Meanwhile, Kenya's retired President Uhuru Kenyatta says he will keep the scheduled peace talks between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, citing conflicts in schedule. Kenyatta, who is President William Ruto's peace envoy to the Horn and Great Lakes region, had been invited by the African Union Commission Chairperson Moussa Faki Mahamat as part of a troika of negotiators to help the warring parties establish terms of their dialogue. The talks are scheduled for Sunday in South Africa, but President Kenyatta on Friday wrote to the African Union saying the dates are inconvenient, even though he did seek clarity on how the talks will be arranged in the future. Now, joining us to discuss this and more is Teklai Gebremicheal, as a writer and editor at TPLF. He joins us from Sweden. Teklai, a warm greetings to you, and thanks for joining us on the news.
Pleasure.
Now, Teklai, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been pivotal to the peace-building process in Ethiopia. And what are the implications of his absence? And what do you make of this? Because something as important as this, his absence, it sends quite a number of signals.
Well, so I think it's his pulling out today from the so-called peace talks that were scheduled to be held on Monday is very significant for two reasons. First of all, I think he's the only person in the panel that both parties, the Tigray government and the Ethiopian regime, trust. And from what I understand, he is also the person that the United States and the European Union as well trust to command some sort of respect. And I think they had invested a lot of time and a lot of money and all that with Kenyatta. So if he pulled out, it's very, very likely that the other panelists not going to command the kind of respect that he would have commanded. So I think that effectively means now that the AU-led process is dead. Interestingly, he makes 2 points in the letter that he issued today. Of course, on the surface, he mentioned that it's due to conflict of schedule, but he also mentions that he hadn't been contacted, he hadn't been consulted, and also, apparently, he doesn't agree with the modalities and with how the whole thing has been scheduled. So it points to very serious differences between the people in the panel, between him and between Obasanjo and the former deputy president of South Africa. So I think it looks like the AU process is now, for all intents and purposes, dead
on arrival. And it does show some level of sloppiness, because why won't you inform a key negotiator about the proposed peace meeting? Now, having exhausted many opportunities of resolving this conflict, how much of an effect do you think this South African peace meeting would contribute to ending this conflict?
Well, I think there was some, maybe I would say naive hopes.
With the absence of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, yes.
So the Tigray government has, for good reason, said that they don't trust Olusegun Obasanjo, the High Representative of the African Union. And the reason for them is, number one, he is friends with the officials in Addis Ababa, the officials of the Ethiopian regime. And he has, on multiple occasions, expressed support and solidarity to the Ethiopian point of view. And for those two reasons, and also he has been very lackadaisical in his approach. And if you remember, you interestingly asked him an important question. I think it must have been 2 weeks ago now. And he said that he has been showing progress in his effort, but there actually is nothing that he has brought in concrete terms in the negotiation. So for those reasons, the Tigray government has lost trust in Obasanjo. but as some sort of foil to him, the idea was that the presence of Kenyatta, whom both parties trust, would make the whole process, the whole AU process, that is otherwise extremely compromised, acceptable to the Tigray government. So with him now pulling out, and you could see, reading between the lines in the statement that he issued, he has taken huge exception to the fact that he hadn't been consulted. So I think it's going to, literally the last nail in the coffin, I would say.
Now, Teklai, looking at the current situation, you really don't have hopes in the South African negotiators, the meetings that will happen on Sunday. But looking at the current situation in Tigray, what is it like since the truce broke?
Well, to give you a taste of what is happening, only a couple of hours ago, there was an airstrike that reportedly killed about 60 people, 60 civilians. And the bombings, whether that is drones and jet strikes and all that, have been happening almost on a daily basis. And a lot of the strikes and a lot of the shellings and bombardments don't actually get reported because, as you know, Tigray has been totally cut off from communication. But even the ones that get reported are extremely horrific, mothers and children being bombed. And of course, there is the issue of starvation because nothing is getting to Tigray. And it's unprecedented suffering that is unfolding in Tigray in absolute darkness. And the international community seems to have given Abiy, or the Ethiopian Prime Minister, some sort of carte blanche, and the thinking from multiple reliable sources of the agreement among the different actors in the international community is that it's a good idea to give him some sort of leeway until he gets an upper hand, an advantage in the warfare, so that it would be easy for him to sit down with what he calls rebel groups.
But you also have
negotiation from a position of strength.
You also have a situation where you have external forces. The Eritreans are also involved in bombing and attacking Tigray. How does that work out? Because our viewers will be wondering that Tigray is part of Ethiopia, and then the government in Addis Ababa allows another sovereign country to come in to kill its own citizens. Can you help us make sense of this quickly before we wrap up this conversation?
Indeed, one of the theories is that because Eritrea has now taken control of matters as far as the war is concerned, and actually Eritrean security officials have infiltrated the Ethiopian system as well. So Eritrea now wields a lot of control over Ethiopia. And because Eritrea has an interest in wanting to destroy the Tigray government completely, the Ethiopian government is not in a position to make its own decisions autonomously and independently. So it has been held hostage by Eritrea. And as long as Eritrea doesn't want to put an end to the war, and they have made it clear that they don't want the war to end, there is no chance for Ethiopia to actually negotiate with the TPLF. And I think for that reason, Obasanjo actually, I think a month ago, suggested the idea of bringing Eritrea to the negotiating table. But that hasn't happened, of course, because the Tigray government found it absolutely appalling that Eritrea should be invited to the negotiating table. But you're right. As long as Eritrea is involved in Tigray, it's going to be very, very difficult to work out how the negotiation might proceed.
Thank you, Teklai Gebremicheal from Sundsvall, Sweden. Thanks for joining us at NC Continental Prime. We appreciate your insights and contributions to the program. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Very much.